Gentlemen, boys and girls. Boys and girls. Are there boys and girls? I don't know if there's boys and girls. All I know is...
It's the Bob Doyle Show.
Normally I play some clapping right here, but wow, it's just been so loud. And I'm experimenting with manually changing the volume of the theme. Looks like I'm a little hot. Now I'll turn down the volume. The show has been suffering from low volumes. And when I say suffering, I mean it wakes up in the middle of the night languishing. Have you ever languished? I mean, it's a word people throw around, you know. Well, not very much. Let's face facts. It's a rarely used word, languish. At least in my circles. I don't know about your circles. Do you have circles? I'm not talking about Google circles. Is that a thing anymore? Or did they end that madness? Folks, it is the Bob Doyle Show podcast, and I am sitting here on a beautiful Wednesday morning, and in fact, I am 2 hours and 8 minutes away from my weekly Law of Attraction broadcast that, of course, changes lives around the globe and the universe in all possible times, past, present, and future. You might be able to hear cars in the background. That's because they're there. And therefore, this microphone picks them up. That's the way microphones work. They listen for sounds, and then they say, well, here's what I'm hearing. Let me explain it to you as accurately as I possibly can. And then it does. And depending on how, smart or intelligent the microphone is, it will recreate what it heard to the best of its ability. This one, decent. So it's telling you, yeah, there's a car, but you know what it can't tell you? It can't tell you what color the car is. Silver, that particular one. So today, for this particular broadcast, I am not drinking coffee. I am, however, drinking Crystal Light. So I'm over in the chat room now on Spreaker, which, if you're listening to this, is exactly where you are right now, unless you've downloaded it from iTunes, which, in that case, good for you. Please download this from iTunes and rate this podcast. Rate it as shamazing. People will know what you mean. And if you can figure out a way to put words to what this podcast is, by all means, help yourself. Please have at it. I will take all of your words under advisement and perhaps incorporate them into future descriptions of what the podcast and the Bob Doyle Show are them today. So it's Marina Del Rey where I'm sitting. That sentence was ill-structured. I am looking out the window. As I say, it's a beautiful morning. It's currently 9:54 a.m. 9:54 a.m. Kind of early to be having a podcast. I think I've had 3 cups of coffee. Maybe it's just 2. But I was going to reserve my next cup of coffee for my... Excuse me, there's a very rude truck here. This truck seemed to be delivering some sort of water in a tank. But you never know. You never know. I mean... Sure, it says something like aqua on the side, but it's not, All I'm saying is you can't be too careful these days. Don't just trust every truck that drives by. Basically, don't bet. Don't place bets. I know a lot of you, that's your thing. You hang out with each other and you hang out by the side of the highway and you look at trucks and you go, I bet that is containing what it says, or I bet it's not. And then there's the whole hijacking the truck thing you have to do to find out. So there's some legal issues with this game. Of course, one of the rules is nobody can get hurt. And everybody, including the truck driver, has to have a good laugh by the time it's all over. So once you hijack the truck, scare a couple of years off its life, or her, and then, get into the truck and say, see, I told you it was in fact pineapples, just like it said on the truck. Or In fact, no, it's crates and crates upon weasels. We don't even want to get into the weasel conversation right now. I know you're all very opinionated about it. Let's just, let's save that for, the other talk shows. The hardcore news, whatevers. So I am really hoping that this broadcast marks the first podcast of this new series where the audio is actually okay. I could be wrong. It could be distorted. Last time it was too small. Too small. Yeah, it was too small. The volume wasn't large enough. It was just tiny. And then before that, it was terrible because of the headset I was using. And before that, same headset, same terribleness. So today I'm using my Apogee iMic, which I have actually used for voiceovers in the past, but I'm not able to monitor my own voice, so I don't know how it's sounding. But it seems okay. I don't know. No one here is telling me. I know some of you. I know for a fact that Dawn and Belinda got email because Belinda followed me. But she's probably getting this email, later. There's no just instant notifications. That's what needs to happen. Anyway, or you just download it from iTunes. Have I mentioned that part? It's always so exciting, ladies and gentlemen, when you get a little notification on your phone that says, Bob Doyle Show Episode 4 is ready for download, or whatever it's going to say. Doesn't that excite you? Doesn't that be like, oh, I've got something to listen to now? And I can guarantee I will learn nothing. That's not true. You might learn something today. But probably not. Well, nothing that you're going to use in your everyday life. Look, the reason I did this is seriously because I just felt like, Bob, it's been quite a few days. Life has been a little crazed. My time has been divided, and I haven't done a podcast. And I think I was, you know what it was? I think I was waiting for an actual idea. So, sorry. Won't let that happen again. I did write in the description, which I have to write before the podcast, obviously, which I don't like that because I never know what I'm going to say. Same thing with the Bob Doyle Show. I always have to go in after the show and change the description of the show because I just come up with some generic. If I know I'm going to... Why am I having this conversation with you? You are not my program director, and you're not interested in this. Here's what you're interested in. Falling off buildings and flying like Superman, right? You read that in the description, and you said, all right, I'll bite. So this is a preview of coming attractions, which will probably happen this afternoon. So if you're listening to this on an iTunes download, and it is any time past September 21st, 2016, then you will have to go back to the BobDoyleShow.com or Facebook.com/BobDoyleShow to find the broadcast that I'm about to mention that is in my future at this point, but in your past. So it's in this sort of nether world right now of time and space and dimension. And what makes it even weirder is that the broadcast that I will be sharing today in the future, my future, your past, unless you're listening to this live, is that most of it was recorded last night. So we have a past recording that's going to be broadcast in my future, your past, that I'm talking about now. This, my friends, is the first multi-dimensional podcast that has been described in that way today. And so congratulations for being here. You can tell all your friends and coworkers that you, number one, should take the rest of the day off just to bask in the glory of what you've done, what you've accomplished. If you're in the Eastern time zone, you're just getting back from lunch, or maybe you're in the middle of it. Just, you know what? Take the rest of the day off. Blow it off. It's Wednesday. It's hump day. And if you're listening to this as a recording, it could be the middle of the night. Go ahead, take the rest of the night off too. Just whatever you're doing, just take a break. Take a break for the rest of the whatever. Whatever the rest of whatever is. If it's for you, it's your work day, the rest of the work day. If it's the night, the rest of the night. You know what I'm trying to say. Just relax. Do something nice for yourself. That's what I'm going to do. Actually, that's not true at all. When I get off of my Law of Attraction broadcast here in 2 hours, well, it starts in 2 hours, I will have a 30-minute break, and then I will be getting on a phone with bookkeepers and accountants. Does that sound fun? How can I make it fun? You know, if this chat room were filled with people right now, which it should be, you could be telling me ways I could make conversations with bookkeepers and accountants regarding IRS issues fun. But you're not here. So, look, I'm willing to take your comments after the fact or on the Facebook page, which I'm not looking at right now. Because 3 for 3, no one's ever commented on the Facebook page. Well, that's not true. A couple people have said, I'm going to go listen right now. But then they come over here to Spreaker, where, if it's live, you're listening there. And there's a chat thing right there. You got to leave it. You got to chat. You got to say hi. And I know it may make you create a profile. But look, you can't let that stop you. Make up a fake one. I don't care. Just need butts in seats. Butts in seats. You know, Lynn and I did a broadcast on Spreaker a couple of weeks ago. And guess what happened? We got immediately, trolled. Like, we were on the show was on, and we got audience. We got 3 or 4 people in there listening, unlike this show. Excuse me. And, but they were really rude and crude and mean and trolls. We ignored them eventually. Lynn was better at ignoring them than I was, which is odd because normally I just blow it off. But then I was able to finally let it go. But the point is, I guess I'd rather have no one here than a bunch of jerks because they litter your chat and comment. And then people come by later to check out your show, and there's all this nonsense there that I don't know if you can get rid of or not. I haven't figured out a way. There should be a way. So could we talk about falling off buildings and flying like Superman? Please? So later today, I'm going to share a video. It's going to be just like, it's a VR time. I'm going to do a VR segment. That's virtual reality for the uninitiated. And from time to time, the Bob Doyle Show will record sessions in different virtual reality games and applications and then share that experience online in video form so that you can get a sense of what is going on in the VR world if you're not already in it, which you will be eventually. Oh, sure, you can resist. You can try and resist, but we'll just see what happens. Anyway, I posted on my timeline a couple of weeks ago, and although the image didn't show up with a post, awkward. The subject was, would you play this? And it was a game. It was a video of a game that was to be upcoming, which was released yesterday, day before, called Richie's Plank Experience. And the basic experience is the idea that you're going to go up an elevator to a very high building and walk out onto a plank, like pirate-type plank, that is suspended 525 feet above the ground. Now look, we all know you're in your living room or wherever you are, but when you're standing on that plank and walking out there, it's kind of a different feeling. So that's the basic thing, and you're supposed to set up a real plank and all that in your room so that it really feels real. I have not done that part. But here's the thing. And to actually close a loop, if you step off the plank, you fall. Not in real life, of course, but you have the experience of falling off the plank to your demise. Now, it's not bloody, so just relax. When you hit the ground, there's this, and you're in white, and there's angelic music. So they assumed that you were a good person. And then you can reset and do it again without falling off so much. It's not hard to stay on the plank, but stepping off just to see is weird and worth an experience. But there are 2 other features of the game called Fire Deck and Paint Deck or something. Anyway, and where you don't worry so much about falling because you're holding depending on which. In the paint game, in one hand, your controller is a paint palette with something like 7 colors. And in the other hand, you're holding a sort of a rocket that acts also as a paintbrush. So you dip the rocket/paintbrush into one of the palette colors, and then when you pull the trigger on the rocket, you are propelled, kind of like a jetpack, but let's think Superman, through the air, and the exhaust of your jet is the paint of the color that you chose. So you can fly around and create paintings with your trails. And I demonstrate that on this video. And then the next one is called Fire Deck, and there's a game element involved where I guess I should say that this building is in the midst of a big city, big sprawling city. And so these fires break out all over the city, and you're to fly around with your rocket and put out the fire. So now in that game, your left hand is holding a rocket, your right hand is holding a hose. And if you pull the trigger, water comes out of the hose, puts out the fire once you fly over to them. However, by physically moving your hand back behind your right shoulder, which you will see me do if you watch the video today, the fire hose changes to another jet. So that as you're going from fire to fire or just flying around the city, now you go faster with both jets. That's when the Superman thing really kicks in, and you fly in and around those buildings and cars and stuff and just say, forget the fires, I'm flying! And it is amazing. But then when you do the fires, getting this hover, because depending on how hard you pull the trigger, or how far you pull the trigger, I should say, that's the speed of your jetpack. So you can truly just hover there, descend slowly, ascend slowly, or fast, or whatever you want to do. It's just a touch. But once you get that touch and you feel that amount of control, it is a shamazing experience. Just like this podcast that you're going to rate and say, this was shamazing. I loved learning about falling off of buildings and flying like Superman. So, in essence, I suppose this whole podcast is just a promotion that no one will hear live for a live viewing or live playing of a pre-recorded video. Now, here's what I do with these things. I've done it once before. I'm doing it again. Therefore, I can say this is what I do. I go live on Facebook, but I play the recording from last night live. But I am sitting there watching this just like you are. So I'll be in the comments section so we can communicate about things. And then after the demo is over, I'll come on live and we can chitty-chat. It's just the Bob Doyle Show Virtual Reality Extra. So anyone who's there in the chat room, we can have some conversation around it for a little bit. And if no one's there, well, guess what? I'm out. I just end that broadcast. So I think one of the reasons I want to share this one is it's just because it's cool. But, you know, my whole reason for going in the virtual reality direction, besides the fact that it's freaking cool in general, is because of the feelings that it can create. Hey, there's Dawn. Hello, Dawn. She says, hey. See, I watched the chat and she has appeared. Is because of the feelings in your body, the sensations in your body are so real, even though you know on a conscious level that you are not flying around buildings like Superman or falling to your death from a plank. Your brain is having issues with resolving all of that and gives you a visceral experience and the emotions that come with it. So from a law of attraction point of view, which if you're not hip to this, that's kind of been my deal for the past 12 years or so, teaching that. It has some rather significant implications. So VR is an area of interest, and I am always in pursuit of games, apps, simulations, or whatever that really evoke that kind of energy, that kind of response, so that as Boundless Living as a company starts to develop their own virtual reality apps, I'm really clear on what elements I want in there to provide the biggest sort of emotional oomph. Okay? So that's that. So it's not just all fun and games, but it is. It should all be fun and games, right, Cody the dog, who can't talk and isn't going to make any sound for this podcast, and I can't even show him to you. So I could also say, right, Henry the elephant? He's just as real to you as Cody is right now. It's theater of the mind, ladies and gentlemen. Perhaps you've heard the phrase. Oh. You know, whenever I buy new half and half, which is a lot, but whenever I buy it, that day I drink so much coffee because it's like, hey, fresh half and half. And Dawn writes, I'm so excited about your VR projects. It makes so much sense combining with the LOA. It's going to be a good boost to my daily practice once it happens. Yeah, so I'm clear that in addition to the things that we develop for the the Vive, the HTC Vive mostly, that creating versions for phones, like Google Cardboard versions, is also going to be important to get the work out there, because clearly not everybody's going to be buying $800 headsets just so they can play my little simulations. So having something available for phones is going to be necessary too. So for whatever we do, this is my commitment to you as I go into low power mode on my phone. Whatever we put out there on the HTC Vive or Oculus or whatever we use, the high-end stuff, we will have some kind of a cardboard version. It may not come out at the same time. I don't know. I'm still learning. And oh, the learning I'm doing to learn how to program this stuff, even though ultimately I don't see myself as the developer in this endeavor. But for now, getting my virtual feet wet, if you will, creating scenarios, creating scenes that I can walk around in or move around in with water and natural elements and things like that. With models that I create or import, creating my own environments. That's what I'm doing right now. Learning the basics, like how to put sound in here and make it spatial and what's the that kind of stuff. I just want to know because I'm a geek that way. But I also realize that my role in Boundless Living VR, the company will not be developer. I'm going to have to find somebody who is riding that train and knows how to program already and is ready to rock and roll with some fun stuff. So if any of the thousands of you listening right now fall into that category, you just let me know, and we'll have a conversation. Really close to launching BoundlessLivingVR.com. I'm really literally just waiting for graphics to be created. I didn't want to do it this time. Wanted a fresh perspective. So hired somebody to do some headers and logos and stuff, which might change as we bring the real group together, as I really start to build the company. We get more focused on our branding. But for now, I just need something up there so I can start documenting the building of this company and sharing things that are VR related in one central location. Everybody on board with that plan? Cody? Henry? Elephant? Oh, look, and there's Charles the Snake, which is a weird name for a snake, because first of all, when you name snakes, normally it starts with an S. Sammy the Snake. Probably, if you were to say to most people, I need you to come up with a name for a snake character, I'll bet you dollars to donuts they come up. Sammy's what comes out. Sammy the Snake. Sam, Sammy. Stan? Nope, don't think so. Too hard to say. There's a T in there. It slows down the process. Susie Snake? Possibly. If they went female. Not Susan. Way too formal. Susie Snake. Sammy. Susie and Sammy Snake snuck sneakily and snarkily. Okay. Well, I got nothing there. There are not enough SN verbs to fulfill the requirements of that bit of humor. That line of linguistics that was attempting to form in my brain, but fell painfully short. I'll tell you what's great. You know what's great? I'm mobile. Now I've been sitting here this whole time, but I can actually move around, which I don't know if you can tell I'm doing. The acoustics change. I'm having to hold the microphone because it is an external microphone very carefully. Now, why am I moving? You might ask. You might be saying, Bob, don't get another cup of coffee yet. Save it for noon. You're going to over-caffeinate and dehydrate, and then you're going to crash and burn later. You know you're going to do it. So please don't make that coffee. But here I am anyway in the kitchen, about to make coffee. But see, for the first time ever, you can join me. So now you can probably hear the water being poured into the coffee maker. Wow, it's like you're here. This is almost like virtual reality, isn't it? Now I have to fill the little pod with, see, I use it. Whoa, I use a Keurig coffee machine. See, see, I told you were going to say that. So I am, of course, also, this is a psychic show, but I don't do readings for anybody else, just for myself. Okay, here's the tricky part. Not so tricky, but anyway. And now this is the sound. If you're a longtime listener of or viewer of the Bob Doyle Show, and who of you aren't? Actually, I happen to know that the one person listening live, Dawn, of course, is probably one of the longest time listeners. So I can say with full confidence that she already knows that the probability that I am pouring myself, I bet you I could even say, Dawn, what kind of coffee am I making? And she could probably answer. And she should be embarrassed if she can't. But this show isn't about shaming people. Hardly ever is it about that. I had to come back in here and get my Bob Doyle Show coffee mug, which, 99% of the time, it's more than that. 99.999% of the time, I'm drinking out of that. Now I'm pushing the button, and you will hear the... See, I'll bet right now you can almost smell the coffee. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and answer the question because I just don't have time to not answer it. Of course, I'm making the Starbucks mocha coffee. Remember when mocher was a word? Like it meant like big. Or I got mocher savings on this car. Or it was a mocher. You remember this? I think that was high school. Mocher. I don't think people say that anymore. I may have to title my Bob Doyle Show that. But listen, here's the other thing. So check this out. I've already done the Crystal Light Peach. If you listened at the beginning of this, which you didn't, but you will, maybe. I started this broadcast drinking Crystal Light Peach Mango Tea. But it's like an automatic thing that goes off in my head. When I broadcast, my body says coffee. It's like when I eat chocolate cake. I can't just eat chocolate cake without having coffee unless it's after 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I know that's pretty late, isn't it? To have your last cup of coffee. I've been known to go as late as 5. And yes, it does affect my sleep. Thanks for asking. Does CBD help for sleep, Dawn? Let's talk about that on your show on October 5th, ladies and gentlemen. If you're listening to this, we're going to do a plug right now with scant details because even though she sent them to me, I don't have them right now. But she could type them in the chat. But I'll be a guest on Dawn's podcast, which almost sounded like it helps sleeping. Well, awesome. We're going to find all about CBD on her podcast, which is all about CBD. But I think the deal is that I'm going to be a guest on her show, but my role as guest is to kind of be the interviewer. And it's kind of like, hi, I'm Bob Doyle. I am a complete CBD idiot. Let's find out from the very beginning what this is, what it's not, and what it's for. Then we'll follow a series of questions, which hopefully will be entertaining and interesting. October 5th at 6 p.m. Pacific on www.cbdtalk. Wait, let me say this correctly for those of you listening. www.cbt... Yes, I do voiceovers. October 5th at 6 p.m. Pacific. This is 2016 for those of you listening in the future. You missed it. At www.cbdtalkpodcast.com. That's right. And look, don't get all bunged up about the CBD. If you don't know about it, if you haven't done your research, let's just not make any rash judgments. Come to the podcast, Dawn's podcast, which we just gave you all the information for, and all the answers will be revealed. So check this out. Friday at noon Pacific is when the Bob Doyle Show airs on Facebook. But guess what? I'll be on an aeroplane. the first time ever, I will not. I've been out of town and done the podcast. I won't be able to do it. So here's what I'm thinking of doing. And since I have a show meeting going on right now with a cast of 1. And look, if you listen to this after the fact, will you please just go ahead and chat and leave a message or do something. Let me know you're listening to this. Did I mention the whole rating on iTunes? I think I did. I don't know what to do to get this on Stitcher. I think there's a way. I know. Well, here's the deal. Friday, since I can't be here, I'm going to do something I've never done before, which is schedule a post. So my plan, what I'm thinking, is that I'm going to record a whole Bob Doyle show ahead of time and then post it at noon Pacific. And I just won't be able to interact live, obviously. So I will have to figure out a way to talk for an hour with no input, or in my Bob Doyle way, just make up input. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Just sort of BS my way through the whole thing as if you were all there listening. So that's my plan. But my other question mark was, if I do this pre-record, let's say I do my pre-record tomorrow, because I got my broadcast today, and then I've got this whole bookkeeping accountant thing. So I probably wouldn't do it today, but maybe, I don't know. But let's say I did it tomorrow. Should I do that? Let's say I did it tomorrow at, 5 o'clock p.m. That's when I was going to record it. Should I go ahead and broadcast it live and just take that recording and then rebroadcast it on Friday as a replay? So do it Thursday night, and then for those of you who missed it, you can watch the replay on Friday at the normal time. And wouldn't it be interesting if I did it Friday or Thursday night at 5 and I had like 5 times more listeners, and I learned that that is a much better time to do the show than Friday at noon. I am not averse to changing my time or doing multiple broadcasts. I don't know. Anyway, that way I could do the show. If there was anybody there, I could interact live and then just do a replay on Friday. It's either way. It's either not do a show or it's a recording. And then from that choice, it's either a recording with no comments, it's completely off-air, pre-recorded, or I do it Thursday, get a real quote-unquote live show recorded, and then schedule that post to appear on the Bob Doyle Show on Friday at noon. I don't know. Let's see what Don has to say. Don says, good point about the time shift to see if it makes a difference. Yes, but it would be so Bob Doyle for you to just pretend we're there. Yes, I think you're right. And I also think, as I'm thinking it through, then it would occur that if I did it live, it would be on my time. They'd be consecutive right next to each other, which is kind of goofy. So I may just BS my way through it and create a completely virtual audience. It'll probably take a lot more preparation than I think. Although these podcasts are quite similar to having a virtual audience. Am I right, Don? Okay. Let's see. How long have I gone? 33 minutes. Oh, crap. I only wanted to go 30. Well, look at that. You got 3 minutes and 50 seconds of bonus time. So I think that's extraordinary. Let's see if I... Hopefully that is not too loud behind me. The volume has been a chore, as you know, to maintain. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to the Bob Doyle Show podcast. And I'm not sure why, because I don't really think I said anything.
It's the Bob Doyle Show.
But then I never think I say anything, so... Obviously something just happened for 33 minutes and... 34 minutes and 23 seconds. Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful time. Don't forget today at noon, Pacific, Wednesday, Bob Doyle Show Law of Attraction at facebook.com/BobDoyleLOA.
It's the